What if I told you that some of heavy metal's biggest legends, once living fast, loud, and larger than life, are now living on the streets? These were the gods of the stage, commanding crowds, selling out arenas, and shaping the sound of rebellion. But fame can fade faster than a guitar solo. And when the lights went out, many were left with nothing. Addiction, bad deals, and broken dreams turned millionaires into wanderers, and the world that once worshipped them barely noticed their fall. These are the untold stories of 20 heavy metal stars who are homeless now. 20. Tim Sköld. Once the creative heartbeat behind Marilyn Manson and KMFDM, Tim Sköld lived in a world of black leather, smoke, and flashing lights. He was the cool, mysterious figure who crafted sounds that felt like pure rebellion. But after the tours ended and the fame faded, so did the fortune. The once celebrated bassist and producer found himself lost in the very chaos he once turned into art. Behind the sharp eyeliner and slick attitude was a man quietly crumbling. Years of creative battles, industry betrayals, and personal breakdowns took everything he built. Without a steady income and struggling to find new work in a shifting music scene, Tim drifted into obscurity. There were whispers of him living in rundown spaces, surviving on small gigs and old contacts that rarely paid enough to keep him afloat. He had shaped the dark sound of a generation, but now he walked through life unseen. Another name in the long list of heavy metal stars who fell from the spotlight into silence. The man who once ruled industrial metal was now facing the harshest reality of all: homelessness and a world that had moved on without him. 19. Scott Weiland. Scott Weiland was once the poster boy of rebellion. The wild frontman of Stone Temple Pilots and Velvet Revolver, his voice defined an era where grunge and metal collided in raw, explosive emotion. But behind the charisma and swagger was a man constantly at war with himself. Years of addiction, failed relationships, and mental turmoil tore through his career like wildfire. As fame faded, so did the money. Weiland went from sold-out arenas to struggling to keep his band together, often relying on unstable tours just to survive. His final years were a blur of loneliness and exhaustion, performing in small clubs with little pay and even less joy. In the end, he was found dead in a tour bus, broke, isolated, and far from the glory he once knew. Scott's story is more than tragedy. It's a haunting echo of what fame can do when it burns too bright. The same road that made him a legend became the one that led him to his end, a fallen icon of heavy metal who once had everything, and then, somehow, nothing at all. 18. Chris Holmes. Chris Holmes, the wild and fearless guitarist of WASP, once embodied everything heavy metal stood for: rebellion, chaos, and excess. On stage, he was a storm of sound and fury, the kind of performer who could make an audience lose their minds. But when the lights faded, reality crept in. Years of partying, financial mismanagement, and fallout with his bandmates left him with nothing but regret and an empty bank account. In his prime, Holmes lived fast and loud, believing the good times would never end. But the record deals dried up, and so did the money. Without stable gigs or royalties that could sustain him, he drifted far from Hollywood's glitz. Eventually, he ended up living in a modest trailer in France, surviving on small shows and occasional fan donations. What makes Holmes's story even sadder is that he never truly stopped loving music. It was just the world that stopped listening. The man who once played to thousands now performs for handfuls, his stage replaced by small bars and local events. From leather jackets to loneliness, his fall from fame shows just how brutally the heavy metal dream can break. 17. Nikki McKibbin. Nikki McKibbin may have been best known from American Idol, but before the spotlight, she had her roots deep in rock and metal. She had the grit, the voice, and the fire, everything that screamed rock star. But when the cameras turned off, the dream quickly started to fade. Fame from reality TV is fast and fragile, and Nikki's never turned into fortune. Struggling with addiction and unstable relationships, she faced a harsh truth. Success doesn't always mean security. Her life spiraled into years of instability, with reports of her bouncing between temporary homes and couch surfing while trying to rebuild her career. The same voice that once captivated millions was now drowned by pain and silence. Even as she tried to stay strong for her family and fans, her demons refused to let go. In the end, Nikki's battle ended far too soon, leaving behind a story that feels both inspiring and heartbreaking. She had the talent and the drive, but like many who came from heavy metal's rougher side, the world never gave her a second chance. From fame to fragility, Nikki's fall remains one of the saddest tales in modern rock. 16. Pete Way. Pete Way wasn't just a bassist, he was a force of nature. As one of the founding members of UFO, he lived life like every day was a backstage party. Wild tours, endless drinking, and nights blurred by fame became his norm. But that same rock star lifestyle came at a heavy cost. Years of substance abuse, legal issues, and poor financial decisions slowly tore down everything he had built. When the spotlight faded, Pete was left facing the wreckage alone. The fame that once paid for mansions and limos couldn't cover his mounting debts. He was reported to have slept in friends' homes or cheap motels, relying on kindness and memories of better times. Even as his health worsened, he refused to give up his identity as a rocker playing small venues just to stay connected to the music that defined him. Pete Way's downfall wasn't instant. It was a slow, painful slide from global tours to near poverty. The same fire that fueled his success also burned everything else away. By the end, he wasn't just another name from the past. He was a symbol of how brutally fame can turn on its own. 15. Mike Howe. Mike Howe of Metal Church had one of the most powerful voices in heavy metal. When he first stepped onto the stage, fans knew they were witnessing something special, raw energy mixed with real emotion. But behind the scenes, fame brought more pain than peace. The constant pressure, financial struggles, and creative frustrations slowly drained his spirit. After stepping away from the band in the 90s, Mike disappeared from the spotlight, working odd jobs just to survive. He lived quietly, far from the glory days, while trying to escape the weight of his past. Years later, he returned to Metal Church for a brief comeback, but the magic didn't last. Depression and personal hardship shadowed his final years. By the time the world realized how much he had given to metal, it was too late. Mike's life ended tragically, leaving fans heartbroken and questioning how someone so talented could feel so alone. His story is a painful reminder that even legends can fall into silence when the music industry forgets them. 14. Chuck Mosley. Before Faith No More hit global fame, Chuck Mosley was their raw, unfiltered frontman. His voice was strange, soulful, and unlike anything else in heavy metal. But his refusal to play by the rules cost him everything. After clashes with bandmates and management, he was kicked out, and that's when his real struggles began. Without a steady income or a record deal, Chuck bounced from one low-paying gig to another. He faced eviction more than once, relying on friends and family to give him a place to sleep. For a time, he lived out of his car, using borrowed guitars just to keep performing. Even as he tried to rebuild, the industry never truly welcomed him back. Despite the hardship, Chuck never stopped making music. His voice carried pain and truth, a reflection of the battles he lived through. But when he passed away, he left behind more heartbreak than hits. The man who helped define a new sound in heavy metal spent much of his life searching for stability he never found. 13. Dave Holland. Dave Holland's drumming powered Judas Priest's biggest hits. His beats made arenas shake, and his name became part of heavy metal history. But after leaving the band, his life took a dark and tragic turn. Legal troubles destroyed his reputation, and his career collapsed overnight. With no royalties and no band to back him, Dave vanished from the scene. He spent his final years living quietly in Spain, far from the fame he once enjoyed. Reports say he lived modestly, sometimes struggling just to cover basic needs. For a man who once played to thousands, it was a lonely and painful fall. What makes his story even sadder is how quickly the world forgot him. Once celebrated as a legend, he became a ghost of his former self, avoided, ignored, and lived out his days in silence. Dave's story shows how fast the music world can turn its back when scandal overshadows skill. 12. Tony Harnell. Tony Harnell of TNT, and briefly Skid Row, was born with a voice that could cut through steel, pure, soaring, and emotional. Fans loved him for his power, but But behind that strength was a man struggling to keep his footing. The industry that once adored him became cold and unkind as tastes changed. When record sales dropped and tours slowed, Tony faced mounting financial pressure. Depression and burnout took over, and he found himself living in unstable conditions, barely able to make rent. He continued to sing, but mostly for small audiences that couldn't keep him afloat. Despite the challenges, Tony kept creating, hoping his passion could save him. But even raw talent isn't always enough when fame fades. He became another quiet casualty of an industry that eats its own, a metal star once worshipped, now fighting just to survive. 11. Eric Brand. Eric Brand was just a teenager when he joined Iron Butterfly, the band behind the psychedelic anthem In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. That song became a timeless classic, but Eric's life didn't follow the same path. After leaving the band, fame slipped through his fingers, and the money quickly followed. He tried to start new projects, but nothing matched the success of his early years. Without a consistent income or support, he faded from the public eye. By the time fans remembered him, Eric was struggling to get by, living quietly and battling health issues. He was a man who helped shape a sound that defined an era, yet he received little of the reward. His story is one of quiet tragedy, a reminder that not every rock star ends up rich and adored. Some, like Eric Brand, end up forgotten by the world they once helped to create. 10. Dave Brockie. Dave Brockie, known as Oderus Urungus, turned metal into theater, outrageous costumes, wild performances, and a stage presence no one could match. But the chaos that made Gwar unforgettable also consumed him. Behind the monster mask was a man drowning in addiction and loneliness. As years passed, fame faded, and financial troubles grew. Brockie lived a fractured life, moving through cheap apartments and struggling to stay clean. When he was found dead, alone, it shocked fans worldwide. The man who made millions laugh and scream lived his final days in silence. His fall from cult hero to forgotten soul remains one of metal's most tragic tales. 9. Johnny Lane. Johnny Lane was once the golden boy of glam metal. With his band Warrant, he topped charts with hits like Cherry Pie, living the dream life every rocker wanted. But the bright lights hid deep pain. Struggles with addiction and financial collapse left him homeless at times, sleeping in hotels and battling despair. He tried to make a comeback, but the industry had already moved on. When he was found dead in a small hotel room, alone and broke, fans were stunned. The man who once sang about a sweet life ended his days surrounded by loneliness. Johnny's story shows how fast success can turn into sorrow. 8. Jason Newsted. Jason Newsted joined Metallica at their peak, living the dream millions of fans only imagined. But the dream came with isolation, pressure, and betrayal. After leaving the band, he tried to create his own path, but money troubles and health issues followed. He sold much of his gear just to stay afloat. Rumors spread about him living a quiet, reclusive life, far from luxury. The man who once played to packed arenas now keeps to himself, surviving off memories and modest means. His story isn't just about losing fame, it's about escaping a world that chews you up and spits you out when the lights go out. 7. Steven Adler. Steven Adler was the heartbeat of Guns N' Roses, his drumming driving hits like Paradise City. But fame hit him harder than any drumbeat ever could. Addiction took over, and soon he was kicked out of the band that made him a legend. From mansions to motels, Adler's life spiraled downward. He spent years homeless, sleeping on couches and struggling to stay alive. Every comeback attempt was crushed by relapse and heartbreak. Though he occasionally appeared on reality TV, the sparkle was gone. The man who once fueled rock's wildest band became a tragic example of how fast the music industry can destroy its own. 6. Bobby Liebling. Bobby Liebling helped create the sound of doom metal long before it became a genre. But the man behind the music was battling demons far darker than his songs. Addiction consumed him, leading to arrests, broken relationships, and years of homelessness. He lived in his parents' basement for a time, completely cut off from the world. Even when documentaries revived interest in Pentagram, Bobby struggled to rebuild his life. The fame that once surrounded him turned into pity and regret. His story is both inspiring and heartbreaking, a reminder that even the pioneers of metal can lose everything when the fight against addiction is lost. 5. Jeff Tate. Jeff Tate's voice once soared over crowds, leading Queen's Rocher to global fame. He had the mansion, the tours, and the respect of every metal fan. But after bitter legal battles and being ousted from the band he built, his fortune crumbled. Forced to downsize and rebuild from scratch, Jeff spent years struggling financially, touring small venues just to survive. His name remained legendary, but his reality was far from glamorous. Behind the calm voice and stage presence was a man trying to keep his life together. Tate's fall from frontman to near financial ruin proves how quickly success can slip through your fingers in the music world. 4. Paul Di'Anno. Paul Di'Anno helped launch Iron Maiden, setting the stage for one of the greatest metal legacies ever. But after leaving the band, everything went downhill. Addiction, injuries, and poor financial choices left him broke and battling severe health problems. For years, he was seen living in poor conditions, relying on fans for support and medical help. The man who once commanded thousands from the stage was confined to a wheelchair, barely surviving. Despite it all, he remains proud of his contribution to metal, but his life shows how fame can vanish, leaving behind only pain and memories of what once was. 3. Phil Lewis. Phil Lewis was a face of glam metal's golden age, wild shows, loud guitars, and endless parties. But when the genre faded, so did his fortune. Years of unstable income and personal struggles pushed him close to homelessness. He performed in small clubs, sometimes sleeping in his car between shows, trying to hold on to what was left of his career. The man who once appeared on MTV was living day to day, far from the spotlight he once ruled. Phil's story is a tough reminder that even a golden voice can't escape the cruel fate of fame when the world moves on. 2. Vinnie Vincent. Vinnie Vincent's rise was as fast as his fall. As Kiss's mysterious guitarist, he became known for his talent and strange persona. But after leaving the band, everything fell apart. Lawsuits, paranoia, and isolation took over his life. For years, no one knew where he was. He lived in near poverty, avoiding the public eye, sometimes staying with friends to get by. The man who once wore makeup and performed to millions ended up vanishing from the world completely. His story remains one of metal's most chilling mysteries, a genius guitarist who lost everything, including his connection to reality. 1. Tim "Ripper" Owens. Tim "Ripper" Owens lived every metal fan's dream when he replaced Rob Halford in Judas Priest. He went from singing in bars to standing in front of thousands overnight. But when the spotlight dimmed, reality hit hard. Without steady work, he found himself struggling to survive, performing small shows and selling personalized videos to pay bills. Despite his incredible voice, the music industry offered little help. The man who once carried one of metal's greatest legacies now fights just to stay afloat. His story closes this list as a brutal reminder that in heavy metal, fame burns fast, and when it's gone, even legends can end up with nothing. It's heartbreaking to think that the same stars who once inspired millions are now struggling to find a place to sleep. Their stories are a harsh reminder of how fast the spotlight fades and how unforgiving fame can be once the music stops. But their voices, their energy, and their impact still echo through every heavy riff and scream they left behind. Which of these fallen rockers shocked you the most? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more untold stories from the darker side of music history.